Now, as your second exercise, I want you to build a reusable like component. So when we click on this, we get notified, and currently we're just printing a message on the console. So in terms of the interface, this component should have a prop called onClick, and here we pass a function that gets called when the user clicks on this icon. So spend a few minutes on this, then come back see my solution. All right, here in the components folder, we add a new file called like.tsx. Now we could also create a folder, but in this case, this is unnecessary because we're not going to have a style sheet next to this file. So here in our TypeScript file, let's create a function component. Good. Now the first thing we want to do is just render a heart icon without anything extra. So back to React Icons website, let's search for heart. I'm going to grab this heart icon. Now on the top, we don't need to import React. Instead, we're going to import this component from React Icons / Now, because this component starts with AI, here we need to add AI at the end. Now, let's just render a simple heart without anything extra. So let's go to our app component and use our new like component. All right, this is what we get. Now let's change the color and the size to make it look a little bit better. So back to our like component, I'm going to set the color to, let me grab a good color. Okay, we're going to paste that here. So that is FF6B81. And I'm going to set the size to 20. That is 20 pixels. Okay, this is what we get. That's better. Next, we need to declare a state variable to determine if the heart should be full or empty. So back to our like component, we use the state hook to declare and initialize a state variable. I'm going to initialize it to false. Now we can call that status or anything else you prefer. So here we have a state variable. Now, if status is true, we want to render a full heart. Otherwise, we want to render an empty heart. So back to React Icons website. For an empty heart, we're going to grab this second icon and import it from React Icons. So if status is false, then we're going to return AI outline heart with a size of 20. Okay, so currently our status is false, and with that, we get an empty heart. But if we change the status to true, we get a full heart. Okay, the next step is to handle the click event. So here we're going to set onClick to an arrow function. Now this is where the user clicks on a full heart. So we should call setStatus and pass false. And similarly, we should handle onClick for the other icon. And here we set status to true. Let's see if this is working. So click, 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 beautiful. Next, we need to notify the consumer of this component that the user has clicked on this icon. So here we need to use an interface to define the shape of props. We're going to have a property called onClick, which is a function with no parameters that returns void. Next, we add props here. We can destructure it and grab onClick. Now, after we set the status, we need to call onClick. Now, I don't want to write that piece of logic twice here. It's going to be a little bit repetitive. So I would prefer to encapsulate all that logic inside a toggle function. So here we create a function. In this function, we can call setStatus and pass not status. So whatever status is, we're going to pass the inverted value. Then we call onClick to notify the consumer of this component. Now we remove these arrow functions and instead pass toggle. Okay. Now we have a compilation error in app.tsx because we haven't set the onClick prop. So here let's pass an arrow function and log clicked on the console. Okay. So let's test our implementation. We get these messages, beautiful. Now in this implementation, we have initialized status to true, but in a real application, this has to be done dynamically depending on the content we're presenting to the user. For example, if we're showing a list of tweets, perhaps the user has liked only some of those tweets, not all of them. So we shouldn't hardcode a value like false or true here. Instead, we should have a prop for initializing the status variable. But for the purpose of this exercise, it doesn't really matter. We'll look at a real-world scenario later when we build a complete project.